Hello flip noise users. Right, today we're going to be looking at fixing timing issues using time stretching feature in Logic Pro 9 called Flex Techniques, Flex Mode, and it's similar if you're an Ableton user as warping in Ableton. So let's listen to what we want to fix today first. Okay, so a few useful features you need for this. First of all, we need to isolate where the faults are. A good way of doing that would be to solo a particular track. That way you're just listening to the drums, or just listening to the guitar, or just listening to the bass. But also you need to isolate it in time as well. So let's just go for 2 bars, okay, and listen to the drums soloed. We could also auto-zoom that. If that's not big enough, you can zoom in that way, and by holding Control-Alt down and using the arrows keys, we can also zoom in this way, and that's a lot better. We can now see each individual drum sound there. So let's have a listen to it, find out where the fault is, and first thing we're going to do is use the scissors to do this. Okay, so I've highlighted an area here that isn't quite right. Looks like to me like the snare is a little bit late, and we're going to use these little white nodes there, that measuring tool there, just to align the 16ths where they possibly should be. Okay, so over here I'm going to put my scissors on the second tool. That means when I hit Command, it turns into a pair of scissors. I'm going to highlight where that snare begins there, and I'm just going to put my tips of my scissors and click the mouse where I want it to go, and likewise I'm going to come where the snare tails off, and just before the hi-hat starts I'm going to snip it there as well. And then if I click on the black band at the top and move it anywhere I want, I'm just clicking it in, locking it into these white little grid markers there. So we'll just have a listen to that. Okay, that's fixed that fault. I'm going to minimize it now, and instead of grabbing the cycle bar and moving it out of the 2-bar loop, I'm going to use this white glove. It just appears when I go in the middle of it. I'm going to move it along 2 bars and listen again. Okay, that sounds okay. I'm going to move it along another 2 bars. Okay, so the problem's either at the end or at the beginning, so I'm going to move it along 1 bar. That way, if it was at the end, it should appear here. If it was at the beginning, then we won't hear it. Let's listen. Yeah, it sounds like something's playing a little bit early there, so I'm going to hold Control-Alt and the arrow key, zoom in, and then listen to what should happen around about here. So it looks like this kick is coming in early. It's coming in here instead of here. So we're going to use flex mode on this, and to do that I'm going to enlarge the screen slightly so I can see these transient markers at the bottom. If you haven't got these, double click on the waveform that you want and it will appear at the bottom, and then we're going to switch the transient markers on. This is called the transient editing mode, and we're going to click on that, and you'll notice these white transient markers appear, and we want a transient marker for every transient. So for example, if I double click that, okay, so there's a couple of hi-hats in there. For this particular project, shouldn't matter. There's my snare, there's a kick with a percussion sound on top and a little hi-hat. So okay, if there was too many in, so I'm going to go Command A for Command All, and put a lot more in. Okay, now the problem is there, you've only got part of a drum sound. Okay, so it's really important just to get a transient marker at the beginning of the sound. You can then go down. Okay, in fact, don't forget to press Command A to select all of it, and then the threshold, take it down, and you just want a transient marker there, nothing at all until there. So let's just go minus some more. And if you wanted to, you could just double click one to get rid of it. And likewise, if you want to add one in, Command turns it into a pencil and draw one in. Okay, so you can do it by hand, or look, that one there we can get rid of. I'll just take the threshold down a little bit more, and that should be about it. You can scroll along, make sure most of them are right. The odd one won't matter because the chance of it being on the problem area are pretty slim. Here you go, look, there's one that shouldn't be there. So again, threshold down, should disappear eventually. So what's happened here is transients have disappeared before the problem one that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to put them in like that, and this is the problem one. I'm just going to double click it and it's gone, and I can see why it appeared. There's a little audio artifact just there, a little click in the audio. So in fact that would want repairing as well. Right, once you've done that, you're happy with the transient markers. There's one there, get rid of. Another one there we can get rid of. Okay, and once you're happy with that, we can then go and switch flex on. We'll switch flex on there, and all that happens is a small box appears here, and that wants to know what algorithm to put in. So the algorithm choices. Now what is this algorithm? It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 main choices, and then a couple of effect flex modes. These are the main 4 we want for fixing timing errors. Slicing basically cuts it and moves it. Doesn't so much stretch it, a bit like recycle, propeller heads recycle. Now the other 3, quite simple, depends what sort of audio you're flexing. So rhythmic concentrates on timing issues, so in other words, anything that's holding the rhythm together, percussion, the main kick, the snare, the drums, very tight timing, and this algorithm will keep that tight timing. Monophonic, a human voice you would use the monophonic algorithm, as the human voice can only produce one tone. A chord, a piano chord, or a chord on a guitar in our case, any more than one note basically, you would use polyphonic. So let's choose, because it's a drum track, we're going to choose rhythmic. Okay, and notice when I choose rhythmic, these transient markers transfer to the top here, and I could see where the problem area is. We said it was around about this 7 marker, and this is where you need to choose the right flex tool. If I was simply to grab that and move it, look what happens to the rest of the drum track. It all moves out of time, so that's no good to us at all. I'm going to Command Z that. Okay, and if I move down to the second half, the bottom half of the wave, it turns into 3 prongs. So what that does, the 2 outer ones lock when I click my mouse over the transient marker, and it allows me to move the middle of it. So let's see, I'm going to go over the problem area. The white transient marker is underneath my flex mode marker, and I'm going to click it, and it locks at either side. So the little hi-hat has been locked and the snare the other side has been locked, and that allows me to move it to wherever I want inside, and it's stretching that audio. And I'm going to move it to the downbeat, the first beat. Right, so let's listen to that now. And that is flex timing. Once you come on to your other tracks, so for example, once you start to repair your bass line and your guitar, you will need to choose the correct algorithm. So for example, if you was doing the guitar chord, you would choose polyphonic. Okay, don't forget to double click, make sure the threshold's set right for your transient markers. Okay, and likewise on your bass line you would choose a monophonic. Okay, and again, look at these transient markers, too many in there, so we'd double click it and we would reduce that threshold until we only had 1 marker at each bass line, and simply lock it either side and move it around to fix it. I hope this has helped. It's very important just to clarify the main points. I used scissors on the first one. Okay, I then went into, double clicked to get the sampler editor up. I then switched my transient markers on and then increased and decreased the threshold. I then switched the flex mode on and chose the correct algorithm, and then simply by using the 3-pronged transient tool there, flex tool, I was able to lock it in the middle and real time time stretch it and to the correct time in place. Hope that's helped, and thank you very much.